podcast where we put you on the map. This is Ron Costa. Today we're broadcasting remote from the great state of New York, actually. At least it used to be a great state, but anyway. But today we're going to be talking about opportunity zones again. We're going to be talking to a great guest, and since it's opportunity zone related, let's bring on Vicki Hutchmala from the QOZ Marketplace and the Opportunity Zones Authority. Vicki, how are you today?
I'm doing outstanding today, Ron. Another great day in Vegas. Going to be a cool 110 degrees, so looking forward to that.
Yeah, this is a remote show for me. Yeah, like I said, it's a remote show for me. I'm out in New York here, and Vicki, I saw something today I haven't seen in quite some time, and that's rain. So, we're living in Vegas here. We don't get too much of that, but I'm psyched about the podcast. I'm psyched about our guest, and I guess let's get right into it. Let's introduce Jim White. Jim White is from the PHT Opportunity Fund. Jim, how are you over there?
I'm great. How you guys doing?
Good. You're no stranger to rain over there in Connecticut, right?
I am not. It's beginning to get a little rain, and I hear that you're in New York. You're on Long Island, if I may ask. You're in the city?
Yeah, we're actually upstate in Sullivan County.
Upstate? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm hoping, I apologize to the viewers if the audio quality isn't as good as in studio. I'll try to do the best editing I can. But so far, so good. And it is relaxing here. I will say that. It's really, really nice. It's nice to get rain every once in a while, although if this happens 3, 4, 5 days in a row, I think I'm going to get a little sick of it.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. It's 110 degrees. I was just talking to our office in Yuma, and I think they're pretty close to that as well, Vicki. So.
Yeah. So anyway, Jim, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and how you got involved in this whole opportunity zone industry?
Well, I often lead off when people ask that question is that I'm 71 years old going on 48, so I got a lot of decades to talk about, and I will shorten the decades up. I am a civil engineer, undergraduate. When I got out of the Army, I'm a graduate of Georgia Tech. Went to work for the Ingersoll Rand Company. If you're familiar with listeners familiar with Ingersoll Rand. As a sales engineer, moved myself up very rapidly in the organization with an international group. I was the Middle Eastern manager for Ingersoll Rand for 3 years in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and all of the Middle East, and got promoted to VP of Construction and Mining Group worldwide, and moved to Woodside Lakes, New Jersey. That was my first foray into LBOs back in the day. This was 1979. And so Ingersoll Rand had a company underperforming, and I went to the chairman of the board and said, hey, I'd like to buy this thing. So for anybody that ever goes to your employer and say you want to buy one of their companies and it doesn't work out well, you better be prepared to leave. So that's exactly what I did. And so that's what you better be prepared to have that resume current if it fails. And so the deal did, as you could tell, the deal did not go through the way we both parties would have liked it to be. So being young and high-strung at the time, I resigned and started my first business, and I didn't know what to call it. So I said I'm a consultant, which I never really enjoyed that word. And I was living in Washington, D.C. at that time, and we'd become pretty good at understanding project financing on a global scale, working with Exim Bank, USAID, World Bank, and et cetera. So I started brokering deals for mid-sized contractors, manufacturers, mid-sized $250 million and down, and specializing in third world countries. Go to the highest risk part of the world. It's the highest reward if you are successful at it, and we got really good at that. And I did a project in Lagos, Nigeria, for a firm out of Montgomery, Alabama. They ended up buying my first company, and I became CEO of Blunt World Trade. That was all the international trading activities, all of our manufacturing for agro-industrial infrastructure. We built the King Hussein University in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and then I started buying and selling companies. all types of companies. From 1980 to 1991, I bought 23. And
wow.
Yeah, 23. 23. What was I thinking? But anyway, bought 23 companies, and that's where when you have no money, coming from no money, you really got to figure out a way to make things happen. And if you can figure out financing and deal structure, you can get pretty good at it. And that's exactly what we did. And so after 23 companies, the last one I owned was in Belgium. We manufacture pumps, oil and gas industry. It was a 100-year-old company that we acquired. Had 33% of the Middle East market, OPEC market, wellhead pumps, transfer pumps, and I'm probably speaking the foreign language for most folks, not in that industry. So it's September 1991, I sold it and retired for 24 hours and moved to Carmel, California, and started getting requests from people around the world, come and speak to us, and how did you do this deal? So all of a sudden I realized I had another business in the making. So I started J.L. White International and built it from myself to 164 consultants and very specialized turnarounds, project management, leadership development, the big, broad word. And when I turned 65, I started making a transition and started writing books. The first book released in 2007, What's My Purpose? And just started speaking and writing books. And all of a sudden, another opportunity presented itself for a friend of mine that actually used to work for me, family-owned business in Salinas, California, in the ag industry. Started in 1936 and said, would you come and take a look at our organization and see what we can do, because we're a fourth-generation family business, and I think most of the listeners are familiar with family-owned businesses. It can be a challenge, and especially never gets past the third generation, so you're in the fourth generation. What we see is people in the family, they never forget who took whose toy from the sandbox when they were 3, and now they're 50 and they still haven't forgot it. So a lot of issues there.
People have a long memory, right?
long memory. So I've become more of a psychologist than anything in that. So to your question, opportunity zones. Throughout the years, doing project financing, you're always looking for what tools are available to you. And I'm not talking about free tools. I'm not talking about anything that going to cut in front of the line or not doing anything, but it's just creative. How do you structure deals? And opportunity zones, and the act that was in December 2017, as Vicki knows all too well about this initiative, I started reading the act and I was intrigued and started reading some research. There's not much information out there. The rules are just beginning to play out. I think they are still playing out. So I decided to, true, Vicki. So I'm not sure where I cut Vicki off or not, but
no, I just put my 2 cents in every now and then.
Yeah, please do. So the rules are still playing out. So in April of 2019, I said, I want to tackle a book. I want to try to make some sense of what it is and is not. At the same time, I'd like to include some best practices that I learned over the 40 years. If you are a business and you're looking to go to a fund, if you got a project in QOZ, here's some things that you need to do in order to get their attention and to make the project successful, because most initiatives, in my experience, fail because of lack of measure, if you will. And I believe in measuring things. So I started the book, and then we own 28 acres of what's called a Precooling and a cooler facility in Salinas, California. And it happened to be an opportunity zone. So I said, wow, right in the opportunity zone, we got an opportunity. We need to upgrade the facility in any way. So I started PHT Opportunity Fund as a single asset class fund to redevelop this campus. So that's what we're in the process of doing. It's a $150 million project. We're doing final site plans now, and we're going to start moving ahead in 2021. And it will go offline, come back online in 2026. And there'll be a state-of-the-art Precooling and cold storage facility and a logistics facility in Salinas, California.
Excellent.
Yeah, I got to
you
say,
certainly sound like a Renaissance man, Jim.
I was going to say the exact same thing, Vicki. That was probably the most impressive 10-minute background I've ever heard. It was amazing.
Exactly.
It's great. Yeah. So Jim, let me ask you a question on this. The last project that you're talking about. Did you know it was an opportunity zone when you got into it, or did you just kind of find that out afterwards?
I wasn't sure. Because I'm pretty sure I did not know it was in a census tract in 2016, and in 2017 I started looking at it, and yes, I think it was about April. 2018, January, February, April 2018. Identified it, and to my surprise, pleasant surprise, it was in the zone, but I did not know it when I started the initiative at that time.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, we found that when the program started in 1917, a lot of people they had no idea what it was. They didn't know anything about it, and they focused primarily on the capital gains deferment instead of the possibilities of the program or the actual crux of what the program is about. And so now, after 3 years, now more people are aware of it. More people are aware of the potential and possibilities of opportunity zones. And I also think, too, that now it's gone from a focus of real estate, buying the real estate and dealing with the real estate in opportunity zones. Now it's going to business development, and now it's finally getting into the true purpose of the program, which is to elevate the quality of life in the various opportunity zones through business development and job creation. Is that something that you took into consideration, the job creation and business development?
Absolutely, Vicki, and I love everything that you said, and that's always been my focus. As you said, early days, in the 3 year in the program, everybody was doing real estate forward looking, right, as you well know. Well, that's an option, but I saw it as a bigger opportunity. And as I lay out in my book, if we go into a community, if we can get investment in the community, and that is starting up businesses, starting incubators, any combination to create a job in the community, and people are going to start taking pride in the community. And I'm looking at it, and the people say, Jim is pretty naive. Well, I'm going to be naive, but I think that if we can invest in these communities, we can start eradicating drug abuse, gangs, and I mean, there's all sorts of opportunities we have. And
exactly.
It's a lack of education. It's a lack of education of the initiative. And like I said, we've got some bad press, and thanks to you good folks that are bringing awareness to the initiative, we need to address that head on and let people know it's more than just the 1%ers, and I make all my 1%ers mad when
exactly.
I say this. It's more than that, and we've got $6.6 trillion sitting on the sideline in capital gains. Well, come on, let's take some of that money, and what a combination. Let's do something good, and let's make some money too.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what's so special about the program is everybody who comes to the table to make it happen, everybody gets to take something away from it that is a good thing, and that not only is an opportunity, a business opportunity, but it's something that touches your heart, and you've done a good thing, and you've changed the world, and what could be better than that?
Love it. Absolutely. Love it. So we have other funds that we are doing, more diversified funds, very specialized funds. But anything that we can do to put some investment back into the community, and I use the word measure, and that's one thing. If I'm critical of the initiative right now, I'd like to see some better measures in place. What are your thoughts on that, Vicki? Be able to measure exactly what we're doing.
And that's exactly correct, Jim. But I think because the program was so new and there was no history with anything like this before, that time had to pass, things had to fall into place, the rules and regulations had to be a little bit more defined, and now there are successful opportunity zones with successful investments in them, and now you can create something that gives you a history of what works and what doesn't work, and something that you can report about so that it can take the program into the future and be much more successful, because now more people know about it and know the successes and the failures and what to do and what not to do, as you said. Ron and I started the QOZ Marketplace as a website primarily to educate people on the program and on opportunity zones and funds, and so that more people could understand what it is and more people be able to see the possibilities and the potential of what it was, more than a real estate investment and more than a place to put your capital gains so that you get a tax deferment. It was something way, way beyond that. But it's also, in order for it to be successful, in order to create a fund and invest in a zone, there's a lot of due diligence and a lot of homework that you have to do, because even though there's almost 9,000 opportunity zones across the country, not all of them are good zones. And by that I mean they all are competing with each other for investment. But you have to do analytical, you have to do demographic, you have to gather all of that information and take into consideration the big picture, the crime, the schools, the transportation, the growth, the income, the potential income. All of that stuff has to be a part of your plan, and you can't be tunnel visioned when you're dealing with opportunity zones and investing money into them. We've discovered that over the time that we've been working with this.
Absolutely
agree.
What
do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that totally. And we're very clear. I'm very clear. My team's very clear when we're talking potential investors. We're going to stay in a particular field that we know well, right? And one of the things that we're doing with our fund, we're focusing on just industrial. Very specific niche, industrial cold storage facilities that has to do with food safety and food chain, the supply chain, and food security. Everybody's got to eat.
That's fantastic. Right? Yeah, that's fantastic. That is great. That is great. You know, also, Jim, a lot of these projects and opportunity zones are kind of focusing on the urban areas. You're doing rural as well. Is that right?
Absolutely, doing rural. And during this time that we're living through, this COVID-19, I think the rural areas has a huge opportunity, and I am an advocate of manufacturing, bringing manufacturing back to the United States. I'm an advocate. I'm passionate about that, and that's one thing that we're looking at. Just before we got on the call, I was talking to a group in South Dakota, where I have a manufacturing facility, and I'm looking to move it and expand. So I'm looking for different zones going to these rural areas that has some good talent that we can invest in. So rural, do not underestimate the rural opportunities. They're huge. Now the challenge we have there is, go ahead, Ron. I'm sorry.
No,
absolutely. And we've talked with and done podcasts with farmers doing agricultural development in opportunity zones, going to established farms and helping them to reestablish themselves and to come into the 21st century in terms of farming and changing the way they do things, being more efficient, being more productive and changing their crops to something that works better. And a lot of rural opportunity zones, we work with folks up in northern Nevada that have a huge geothermal area in an opportunity zone, and that's infrastructure, and that's transportation, and that's railways and roads and all of that's part of opportunity zones too. And it goes way beyond the building a multifamily residential project in downtown Vegas. It's way beyond that, and the possibilities there are exponential.
I agree. I agree, and I have a tendency to get myself in trouble when I say if somebody sends me another pitch on a multifamily unit right next to each other, competing with all the same dollars for the same competitor like that, I'm going to jump off the bridge. Come on, guys.
Yeah, some people they get stuck.
Yeah, Jim, can you go more into this food idea? Was that your with the cold storage? Is that what you guys are doing now? Can we talk about that a little bit more?
I can. It is. When you have produce, as you're going to know, you got fresh produce. Well, as soon as you pick that produce, you need to get it to a facility that can, first step is to remove the heat from the product. You got to remove the heat from the product. That's called pre-cooling. So there's many methodologies of pre-cooling, depending on what the crop is. Say you got romaine lettuce, you got strawberries, you got whatever that fresh product gets. You got to get the heat out of it to maintain extra shelf life. So you put the heat out of it, then it goes into a temperature-controlled cold storage facility, and it resides in that cold storage facility on average about 3 to 5 days max, and then we have trucks showing up, and they're picking up this product from the different what we call grower shippers, and they are taking the trucks to distribution centers in the United States and taking the produce to port facilities to be exported. So we're the largest, oldest commercial pre-cooling cold storage facility in the nation in Salinas, California, and that's what we're redeveloping.
Right, and these are going. Is that the main focus of this PHT fund?
It is the only focus of what I say Fund 1 right now. It is the only focus, and I believe in. Don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you did when you got it done, and prove it to me. So
exactly.
Wish everybody thought like that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't bore me with all your talk. Just go show me. So yeah, it's the focus, and and we have an opportunity because Salinas, California, as you guys probably know, is the salad bowl of the world, right? It's the salad bowl, and we're right in the heart of it, right in the central heart. And like I said, we are a commercial cooler. Now, what's the distinction from that? Most of your grower shippers, and we'll throw some brand names out there, but brands that we know, major brands, they do their own. We are commercial where we actually contract with different grower shippers, major brands, and we manage their product for them, by pre-cooling it, by pre-cooling it and storing it. And today, you got other things to look at. And one thing that we're looking at from a technology standpoint, how can we improve the pre-cooling process? Because two major expenses, your energy, your infrastructure, your energy, and your labor, right? So there has been no innovation whatsoever in the technology in pre-cooling for the past 50 years. And the majority of the pre-cooling facilities are over 50 years old. So you got food safety issues you got to take into the account, and you got what I call food security issues. Well, COVID-19, if it's taught us anything, things can come from any place, and you know where it's coming from, and you got to be prepared for it. So that's a contingency plan, and you got to be doing all the time, and it's expensive. So we want to incorporate that in a new facility. Say, for example, if I bring produce in, if there's produce that has maybe any pesticides or anything, I want to be able to make sure that through our pre-cooling that we might be able to make sure that's all that's removed. There's no residual. Make sense? And to move that on. Because we want to be able to take it to the store, walk into the grocery store, and get some fresh produce that you can trust. Not that you can't trust it now. I'll get myself in trouble. We got some of the best food safety in the world, but we can do better.
Right. And even though this is in Salinas that you're talking about, the technology is there. You can do this anywhere, really, right? I mean, it sounds like this is something so buildable on other places. Yeah,
and that's what we're focusing on, Ron. We're focusing on what's in Vegas. I got some customers that build a facility in Henderson that's operating there. What can we do in Hunts Point, New York? What can we do here? So it's throughout the nation, and we want to be that, lack of a better word, that consolidator, that we really know what we're doing in this particular asset class from an operational standpoint, from a design standpoint, and so we want to focus on that right now. I think that's big. And then on the other hand, what's dear to my heart is being able to start up new businesses. Well, if we can invest in new businesses, that's going to help further develop R&D in all down the stream, right, up and down the stream here. So we're kind of standing on this food safety technology from seed to table, if you will. So that's where our fund is focused right now.
Oh, excellent.
Right.
Have you been impacted by the virus?
You know, we have been very, very lucky, and I don't want to counter on the horn that much, but I must. I saw this coming. I saw this situation coming, unfortunately, in January, February, and we started making preparation for it. So before all of the release from the CDC or from the CARES Act, I put out a policy that if anybody got affected, we'd pay them 80 hours. Well, guess what happened? That's what the government did, right? So we put this in place way before in anticipation, because as a commercial cooler, we had to be the leader in the industry, and that's what I wanted to be. And so knock on wood, we have not had a case in our campus to date.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's impressive. So yeah, it's interesting that you kind of saw it coming, because obviously this is impacting everything. When you're talking about food, you have to worry about the high touch and what do they call it, the contactless delivery, and all these other issues that are plaguing the food chain. So I'm sure that's a huge consideration. But it sounds like you guys have it pretty much all covered, which is nice. I'm surprised. Listen, you got 23 more companies to open, right, before it's all said and done?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I tell anybody that's been in the entrepreneurial sphere and tell you the story that you didn't have some failures along the way, they probably are not telling you the complete story. I've had my ups and downs, but I've learned from them, right? So, but yeah, we're it's the beauty thing about being a continuous student, which I am. Like I said, I'm 71, going on 28, and I'm learning something every day. I just, how can we do it better? How can we get better?
Exactly. Right. That's the difference between leaders and followers, because leaders anticipate the possibilities and adapt to them and survive them, where the followers just sit around and wait for somebody to tell them what to do, and then they're at the end of the pack holding up the back end. And leaders, that's why leaders are successful. That's why entrepreneur leaders are very successful. The people that anticipate, the people that see the future, the people that see the big picture and how everything is relative to everything else, they're the ones who are successful, just as you've proven in everything you've said today, Jim.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. And I often, people said, well, what is your value proposition? I said simply, I make the invisible visible. Well, what does that mean? Well, you got it.
Yeah, I was going to say I see what you're talking about there, but I thought that might have been a pun, so I decided not to say that.
Yeah, it actually was. So.
But I got a couple more questions before we close this out.
Sure.
One is, there's a lot of people out there that have capital gains, whether they're selling real estate or stocks or whatever, and obviously Opportunity Zones helps those people who are, especially in the stock market, or if they have art or they want to sell their business, whatever. This is really made for them. But so, what would you tell somebody who has sitting on these capital gains? They see all these funds out there. Do you have any advice for them that they can take to heart before they move forward?
I do, and the advice I would give them is first invest in the asset class that you're comfortable with. I mean, search out what are you comfortable with, and at the same time do your due diligence in the fund that you're going to invest in. Because sometimes we get stars in our eyes about these 13, 14, 18% returns, right? IRR. Well, that's great. Mm-hmm. And the other side of the coin, in the education, what you guys are doing, and other people that we're educating the public about the possibilities here. And the first thing I would say, if you have these capital gains, I don't care if it's a $50 or $500 capital gain. If it's a capital gain, you're going to have to pay the gains on it, right? You got to pay the taxes on it.
Right.
So why don't we look at something to say, well, geez, let me take that and let me go find a place that I'm comfortable with and that I can invest it, that I can look at it and say maybe I can put a face to a dollar that actually help somebody put some food on the table by creating a job. And you mean, and the business is going to run successful and give me a dividend and give me an appreciation too? Yes, I can. So that's for my advice for good. Do your research, get comfortable with the class that you want to invest in, and I think Vicki said it earlier. There's a lot of consideration to take in for the right zone to go in. And that's where it gets so confused. That's the reason we've decided to take a very clear focus. We know all the facilities. We know what we're looking for. That's the reason we'll have to say no right now to other opportunities, because I don't have 100 years to make these decisions. We can make decisions. We got projects ready to go, and that's another thing about when you put money in a fund, just deploying that capital, as you guys well know, there's some timelines. There's some you got to have some things ready to go. And, and if you're not, you can get yourself in trouble a little bit. So first is make sure that find the fund that you're comfortable with and the asset class that you want. And before it's over with, we're going to have 5 or 6 different asset classes that's going to be able to give people options. But it's going to be focused in the arenas that we know and know well.
And also you don't need to, just because you live in Vegas or Connecticut or wherever, it doesn't mean that you're limited to investing in opportunity zones where you live. They're all over the country. Go wherever, like you said, go where you see something happening that you're familiar with and you can understand.
Absolutely, and that's the beauty part. And so I think there's over 8,800 and pushing, and opportunity zone, certified opportunity zone in the United States and territories right now. So there's plenty to look at. So find one that
there sure are.
Makes you comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. And I got one more question for you, Jim.
Sure.
Your book is called Opportunity Investing: How to Revitalize Urban and Rural Communities with Opportunity Funds. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, where can I find that? Where is it on Amazon or?
It's on Amazon and when we have retail, but Amazon, Ingram, all the booksellers, but primarily Amazon. And just go to our website, authorjimwhite.com, and it'll take you to many different places to find the book.
Yeah, okay, and we'll link it on our show notes as well. So if anybody is listening to this, you'll see a link to the book on the show notes. And then as far as the PHT Opportunity Zone, if they want more information on that fund, is there a fund out there or a website for that fund, or is it on that link that you just mentioned? We're going to put that on Kilo Z Marketplace, by the way. But until then, do you guys have a website for that?
We do, and it is PHTOpportunityFund.com. PHTOpportunityFund.com. Great.
Well, Jim, I got to tell you, it's great to have someone on the podcast with the focus and the vision, such as yourself. You just put it out there so clearly. It was really impressive. A really great interview, and I want to thank you for being on the show. By the way, Vicki, do you have any more questions for him, or should we close this out?
Well, I have one more maybe quick question. What do you see the future of opportunity zones, Jim?
Oh, I loved your question, Vicki. Love it. Love it.
That's why I saved it till last.
Ooh, you saved it great with her. I think the future is extremely bright. I think we're just scratching the surface. And what we must do, we must keep constant communication with our legislators. We cannot allow this initiative to fall on the wayside. I'm optimistic. There's not a better time. I mean, look at our unemployment rate. I look at it as another opportunity for us to create a job through the fund, and that's how I'm looking at it. And that's the pitch that I make every time I have an opportunity to speak to an institutional investor or any investor whatsoever. So the future, in my opinion, is extremely great. And I'm not focused on any other investment other than opportunity fund investment. And that's an investor that's from all for over 40 years. That this is where I'm going to focus in the near future.
Excellent. You know, I see all of these news reports and articles and that talking about how it's a failure, and it's, you know, everything about opportunity zones is negative and that. And it just irritates me so much, because whoever is saying that opportunity zones are failing just don't know what they're talking about. They're not educated on what they really are. And if they were, they would never say that, because I agree absolutely with you, Jim. The future is bright, and opportunity zones is one of the great programs that this administration has put together.
I agree, and always go right down to the center. And I tell people, I don't look at party. This is America, and we've got to decide. We got to work together, and we give credit where it's due. And so don't talk about where I'm a red or I'm a blue or I'm a purple, I'm a green, whatever. It's America, and we've got to make sure that we keep these initiatives moving forward. Because, again, there's 35 million Americans that currently live in these zones that we can help.
Right. Right.
Amen.
And that's the whole purpose of the program, elevating the quality of life.
Exactly. All right, let's close this out. Once again, Jim, thanks so much for being a guest on the show. I really appreciate your time. And Vicki, thanks for co-hosting the show with me. It was great as usual. It was a lot of fun. And folks out there, you're listening to the Mappable USA podcast at mappableusa.com. If you go to that website, you can scroll down. You'll see all our syndication sources. Pick the one you like best so you'll never miss another episode. And also, if you want to be a guest on the show, like Jim was today, there's a guest tab there. You can click on that, fill out the form, and we'll see what we can do about getting you on the show. Lastly, if you like what you heard today, or if you didn't like what you hear today, send us an email, info@mappableusa.com, or leave a comment on the page you're listening to this right now. We really appreciate your feedback. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Thanks for your support, and we'll see you next week on another Mappable USA podcast. Have a great week, everyone.